Hey, what's up? This is BreakmanX, and welcome to the game show on January 22nd, 2025. How's it going, Jack?
Doing great. Having a blast here. It finally got out of sub-zero temperatures, so things are starting to warm up for a day or two.
Have you de-thawed?
Yes, but don't ask my dog.
It's a dog sickle. And Maul, the dark side of the Force, rejoins us after a week of being encapsulated in carbonite.
It's true. I'm here. I have Raising Cane's. I'm all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is chicken.
Try not to chew into your ear too much.
You want to make me hungry. And, of course, we've got Logan.
Yeah, I can't wait to start talking about some games tonight. That's going to be great.
We should do that. We should do that soon. And then Darria, how are you doing this evening with your orange mic?
Pretty good. It looks orange in the video, but it's actually red.
Oh, really? It looks
Yep.
nice. I like the way it looks. It looks nice.
Courtesy of my boyfriend's setup.
It's a nice frame.
Is it a hot mic?
I can also.
Oh,
I can
nice.
also-
Ouch.
Very
I
cool.
love the fact that it lights up. That's a really good touch.
Ouch. So tonight we've got kind of a classic show for you where it's just us. We don't have a special guest tonight. You're going to have to make do with us. But we're going to tell you the best games ever. Like, this list is so definitive, no one could ever argue with it. So don't even try. No, we used to call these the We're Wrong awards. I looked back actually to make sure that's what we called them. So that gives you any hint. But We're Wrong Awards 2024, since it's, going over the previous year and before. But basically, we're going over everything. All the systems that we have some sort of an attachment to, that we've played. We don't necessarily own them all, but some kind of system where we've spent significant time with them and really enjoy the games of them. So, you won't see any MSX, nothing against the MSX, but we just don't have as strong of an attachment for it. So, and we just lost the MSX portion. Oh no. Well, hopefully they come
What are we
back.
gonna do about the PC-88 though? Come
I know,
on,
right? Or what was there's the PC Engine after the Super Graphics that I can never PCFX maybe that had like 5 games. That's a fabulous one. But I should mention we do have some exciting guests here that will be coming up. I can't announce like exact dates yet, but we are going to be having at some point soon John Lemon from Digital Foundry on the show, which is very exciting. I can't wait to have him on. We're also going to have Voltar, the extraordinary modder, will be on the show. Leonard J. Paul, who is a video game composer, does a lot with video game audio. He's going to be on the show. We've got Andrew Allen coming on here at some point here in the next couple months. He's probably going to be a little bit farther down the line. But lots of really cool people and some more that I can't really talk about yet. So awesome. Thank you. And I did accidentally have Tri on the intro graphic. I apologize for that. Tri is not with us tonight. Maybe in spirit, but not in form. But I do really appreciate...
Everybody is so excited.
It was very exciting. But I do appreciate all the mention he did for us on the My Life in Gaming show last week. That was really, really nice of him and all the nice things he said about the show. So I really appreciate that. Well, with that said,
rad.
Yes, it was very rad. So with that said, we should probably get into the games because we've got a lot to talk about. It's probably not going to even get finished today. And, we would like to eventually go to sleep. So let's start out with our first category here. And this is arcade all the way back from 1977 to 1989. And this was hard for me to figure out what to put here. There were so many games I could have put, and I ended up going with what I did because it was the game that when I was a kid going to the arcade, I was most excited to see. And not necessarily maybe the best arcade game, although I think it is very good, but it was the one that I was most excited to play, and I put tons and tons of quarters in back in those days. But TMNT the arcade was a lot of fun back in the days. Cowabunga. What about you, Jack?
So for me, it's Afterburner 2. Something about the soundtrack, the fast-paced action, the fact you could do barrel rolls, and it had an awesome cabinet. If you found the deluxe cabinet, that was the arcade experience for me back when I was young.
Awesome. That's a great one. It's a great choice. I only ever saw it in the wild once, but it was a lot of fun when I checked it out. For sure. And
So
then
I highly recommend if you can find it. It's pretty easy to find, but I highly recommend looking it up on YouTube or wherever. That soundtrack just is a banger. Like, it's awesome.
Oh, it's
track after track after track.
It's so good. Sega in that period in general just like had so much great music, but Afterburner in particular was very great.
Pretty big.
So,
Yeah.
Maul.
All right, but a quick question here for you, Break. When you were setting up this list, the 1989, what made you choose that year in particular?
Talk to Jack. It's Jack's fault.
Yeah. So I wanted to so for things like the PC and computers and for the arcade, there's not really defined generations, and so I wanted to kind of pick up certain periods of arcade history. So like 1977 is when Pong came out. So it started in 1977. And then go up to 1989, because that's about when you have like Sega Genesis and stuff like that coming out. Arcade games in particular, took a big leap forward around that time because you had some of those Konami games coming out around like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Simpsons, shortly thereafter. But you had a definite, I won't say gimmick phase, but it was more than just quarter munching at around that period of time. And so I thought it was a really good inflection point to kind of cut it off there and then kind of go after that.
Yeah, because I thought that maybe you had intentionally done like a BCAD kind of thing where it was like with Street Fighter 2 being like the dividing point.
Yeah.
You know? So I thought it was a pretty clever year. And Brick, with your pick, I was actually surprised that Turtles, with it, how like high fidelity the graphics and stuff was earlier than that. I didn't remember it being so.
It was it barely made the cut. It was 89, because otherwise I go with Galaga.
For sure. Well, anyway, good thoughts all around for you guys there.
Yes, no, and Jack, I didn't mean to say it was a bad thing. Jack, great job putting together the list. I just wanted to give you credit.
No offense taken, man.
I just wanted to know the thought process. It was a good cut. For me, it was Double Dragon was the pick. I can't think of a arcade game whose music is just more like indelibly stuck in my mind. Sometimes you're just walking through work, and that just becomes the soundtrack as you're like, marching forward to whatever you're going on to next. Also, begat my obsession with kicking in-game bosses over cliffs. If there's ever a cliff, they're going over it, even if it's not the easiest way to kill the guy. Like, it has to be done.
It was not the original, but it was one of those first games where you could really cheese a boss like you could in like Dark Souls or something like that.
Yeah.
Very, very true. All right, that Double Dragon's a great choice. The NES version was my favorite of Double Dragon, but that music is totally
it's such a different game on the NES, man.
It is, but that's what I grew up with. The Master System is actually technically better, but I like it.
Hey, Bimmy and Jimmy, man.
Yeah, Bimmy, yeah, nice. All right, Logan, bring us in.
Yeah. I kind of had a hard time choosing my favorite arcade game from that era because, I really like arcade games. I've been to a lot of arcades, like Penny Arcade in Malibu, and then like 1984 in Springfield, just filled with arcade games. And the earlier ones in the 80s are some of my favorites. And I almost went Pac-Man, but I decided to go 1943 Battle of Midway. Yes. I love the music in that game and the visuals. Like, they do a really good job making it look like you're flying over the ocean. And I love playing with another player by my side. It's one of the rare games from that time period where you actually have like two people controlling characters at the same time on the screen. And that's just so great. I love it.
Nice. And we have some commentary coming in on our chat. You want to hit that up for us? Logan is our designated person for bringing y'all in here.
So, J Brown 2163 says Darria and Logan with the "I wasn't alive yet" face. Yeah. No, there's some early ones here that might give us some trouble. And And then Storm Eagle 0083, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Arcade all day, every day, twice on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've enjoyed that one the few times I've played it.
Very nice.
Meat Sword McGravy. I can't speak for any other aspects of the game, but the intro to the MSX version of Metal Gear 2 and accompanying the theme of Solid Snake track were ahead of their time.
Yes. If you don't have the what is it, the Metal Gear Solid Collection Volume 1, it comes with that, and it's really good. You should just at least check it out.
That's good. I will have to check that out at some point. And then we've got Nick of Time shouting out Dig Dug. Dig Dug is also great. That one's one of my top favorite arcade games as well.
Only Q were here, he would really enjoy that mention. Probably be with positive expletives towards that, if anyone remembers back in the day. But thank you, Logan. So welcome to the game show. It seems like we've got a lot of new listeners in the last few weeks, so just want to welcome you here. The game show is a celebration of video games and our collective interest mixed with a healthy dose of humor, while bringing on our favorite people in the game and movie industries as guests, except tonight, because tonight is old school night. But let's get on to some computer action. PC.
Wait. Did we hear Darria?
Oh my God, Darria! Sorry, Darria. I was so excited. I was so excited to read the thing. Maul's good at that, by
Mine
the
didn't actually
way.
like play in an arcade, but one thing that like I played the Namco Museum like games a lot, so I got to play a bunch of different arcade kind of games. And Galaga was always one of those.
Such a great choice.
Played that with my dad. And still today I love playing that.
Such a great choice. I think that's maybe why I inadvertently skipped you, because we mentioned it before. But Galaga is such a great game. Like I used to play that all the time.
That
would
would game. So
probably be my second.
that remains my mom's favorite game of all time as well.
Yeah, I will tell you, we've got an arcade machine at the office, and it's one of the multi-cades. I helped build it actually, but we have, I would say, 4 days out of the week, I come in and somebody's left Galaga on from the previous night, so I have to back it out. I mean, it is still, it's a timeless game, like without a doubt, it is timeless.
Dude, I've got a multi-cade in my basement that I built. And Galaga is a favorite on there too. Like my dad currently has a high score.
Hitting that button like really fast is so much fun. That was when I built my Mister. That was like the first game
Nice.
the arcade. So again, apologies to Darria. Fantastic. But we're gonna move on to some PC action here. PC, Apple, Commodore 64 up to 1989. Again, this was hard because I played a lot of games during this time period. And I went through several of them. There's this one game we used to play at school where you were like a little triangle and you'd put in these things and you'd zip around the screen. And I'd actually probably put that if I could remember what it was called, but I little triangle. But since I can't remember that, the game that I played probably the most during that period, and there were others that I almost put, Civ 1, could be up there. But Oregon Trail was just such a classic, and I played it so much of it that, going through this list, I was thinking, okay, best game, whatever. But what's the game I think of as favorite that I could just like jump in and play again? And, I kept coming back to all that Dysentery. It's just where it went.
It's amazing that even like today, my kids know Oregon Trail because there's still some form of it either on iOS or, I don't think they're playing it in school anymore, but like, it's everywhere. Like just pop culture. It is there. It's what people know.
I think they just released a Switch like remaster or like remake recently.
Nice.
I'll have to pick it up, but I have like a handheld version of it. That's literally like a little mini PC that just plays Oregon Trail, like the Apple IIe version of it.
That's
I'd say a Christmas ornament of it this year from Walmart.
Oh, I saw that. I thought about getting it, and now I'm a poser. I did. But but that's one of the cool things about the Mister is I won't talk about it all night, but it can emulate those old computer systems too. You can do like an old Mac or a 386 or whatever. I mean, you can do that with an emulator, but it's fun. Jack, bringing it on to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Excuse me. So my favorite for that era of PC gaming, PC, Apple, Commodore 64, whatever, home computer gaming, is Conan the Barbarian, Hall of Volta. And I played it on the Apple II. It's tough to explain. It's like an action platformer. I played it. There was one year where I did a computer class in grade school during the summer. And we ended up just playing video games the entire time. That's how I got introduced to SimCity, among other things. But Conan the Barbarian was the game I grabbed immediately whenever I saw the floppy for it. Wasn't in use by somebody else. It's really cool. I think it's ahead of its time. It reminds me a lot now. I went back and played a little bit of it the other day, just on an emulator. And it reminds me a lot of, not Donkey Kong Jr., but it's like a mix between Donkey Kong Jr. and, I don't want to be too productive, but like Ghosts and Goblins. It's kind of weird, but it's
I want to play
unique.
it
Yeah, it's really unique.
I want to check it out. Cool. It's a fun era for those games. And Maul, to you next. We have to pick something completely unique. Just kidding.
Yeah, totally. Would be the Oregon Trail. Yeah. But a different version of it, of course. I didn't have access
1.1
to a PC very much in those days. I just had like the ones at school.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't get a home computer of my own until I was like in high school, probably. Which is a weird concept these days. But yeah, so Oregon Trail was at school. It and like Carmen San Diego and stuff we had access to. But it's still a great game regardless. Obviously, we've talked about it. It's timeless. Though, I will say one weird little shout out. My cousin had a little PC and a bunch of strange games. And he had one that used to play a lot called Hugo's House of Horrors. That
sounds fun.
It's one of those, it's like the point and click adventures with really cryptic clues that you will never get, and I never figured out how to beat it. It never happened. We died in many strange and unforgettable ways. So
isn't it amazing?
That'd be
how,
number 2, I guess.
Isn't it amazing how games of that era, like we could just play them over and over again and never beat them and still look back on them fondly? I don't know if I would do that as much with a game today.
It's what we had.
It's what we had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we didn't have,
That was replayability back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, hardness.
Extreme difficulty.
I guess if you hadn't beat it yet, you'd always come back to play it.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I think that's the mantra the Atari 2600 was built around, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. That and just pure fun. No, the Atari 2600, I teach a video game class, and I start them with the 2600, and you'd be surprised how many of the students today love Kaboom, especially. Like there was one kid that kept coming in like after hours playing Kaboom. So yeah, it was pretty cool. But Logan, and then Darria will be next, I promise.
Very original. I'm also Oregon Trail. I don't think I've played any other computer games from that era, but I know my mom specifically always talked about Oregon Trail, and I just had to try it, and I love it. You gotta get the dysentery.
Or cholera. There's lots of fun diseases that you can acquire in that game, or you cross you can go across like the river, and it's like with the oxen. Yeah, awesome.
I found it.
We've got that around our house
it's
too.
Dead, but yeah, I gotta put some more batteries in it.
So cool. I want to play Oregon Trail now. I'm ready, and I want to try out that Conan. That's one thing that's cool about this list is I've got a couple games to check out here. Yeah. But Darria.
So I actually did not play very many computer games, so I don't actually have one to say.
Oh, so this was the one I should have skipped.
Yes. There'll be quite a few where I don't have.
I thought you just really liked North America.
Very funny.
NA. She said NA.
Yep. Took me a second.
Yeah, it took everybody a second. That's how you know it's a good joke when no one laughs right away. All right. So, all right, moving on. So I was thinking a
there's
lot.
a few more comments.
Oh,
here.
go yeah. Bring the people
Yeah.
in.
Jesse Brown says Oregon Trail and Carmen San Diego, which I haven't heard of Carmen San Diego.
Oh.
Is Carmen San Diego.
Go. Okay, so the trick is going to be find an emulated copy of Where in the World or Where in Time is Carmen San Diego, and then open up Wikipedia on another page, because back in the day you had to use an encyclopedia, or at least
You
the
don't need Wikipedia. I could finish that game as like a second grader. You're fine.
I was not.
But I'm really surprised, Logan, that you haven't heard of that. Though. Man,
Yeah.
what a weird generation gap. Because I mean, Carmen San Diego was big enough at one point. She had like a game show and like an animated series
Wow.
going on.
Where in
And,
the world is
yeah.
Carmen San Diego?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Man,
launched
that
launched
acapella
acapella
band at
music
the end.
as we know it today.
Yeah,
And the red-
you'll check it out.
the red
It's
hat.
quite a rabbit hole to go down if you start looking up Carmen San Diego.
Yeah.
It was pretty big in its time.
For sure.
Oh yeah, that's one of the first things that showed up when I started typing in that sentence. It auto-filled it for me.
Nice.
Okay,
Good luck.
and there's another comment too. Yo, anyone play Chip Challenge? I think that's my pick. That's another one I haven't heard of before.
Chip challenge.
Chips Challenge. It's a really fun, like Pac-Man like puzzle game. It's been a while since I played it, but I remember it being pretty fun.
I think.
Oh, yeah, no, I definitely I just played it on like a demo somewhere, like a Walmart on a PC. I do recognize this game though.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't get into puzzle games till later. I didn't want to think when I was younger. But then once I got older, I enjoyed the thing. But
Puzzle games, some of my favorite.
you can go ahead and finish off the comments.
I love
before
puzzle games.
I do now.
That was the latest.
I was
one.
missing out. I know I was missing out. Do we have a couple more comments to go, or?
That was the latest one.
Oh, nice. Okay, awesome. So this next one was really hard for me because the NES. I've been trying to think like what is my favorite system of all time, and I think it's the NES. It was the first system that I really spent a ton of time with. It's obviously not the best technically, and there's games that came out on it were technically and design wise improved vastly. Next generation and continued forth. But in terms of just systems I actually play my NES quite a bit. Every Friday, my wife and I play the NES until late into the night. I love that console. I love it so much. But picking a game was hard because I love all these games and I could pick some obscure game and be all fancy. But the game that I played the most and the game that I go back to the most on the NES is Super Mario Brothers 3. And I know it's like the most basic, boring choice in the universe, but I just love that game. And I can remember the first time I played it, we rented it, and there was this terrible tornado outside, and the tornado prevented us from going to some graduation. And I was like thankful for the tornado. This is terrible. I was thankful for the tornado because I got to be in the basement playing Super Mario Brothers 3. And I knew as long as that tornado was impending, I wouldn't have to leave the house. So every time up to basically World 3, I think about that because that was about how far I got.
Thank God for all this destruction outside. You have to go find that.
No one got hurt. No,
Yeah.
I should say it never actually made it into town. I lived in a really small town, so it's just out in the country. As far as I know, there wasn't really destruction, at least according to the news, which is always accurate. So I think it was okay. But as a kid, I was just Super Mario Brothers 3. I'd waited for ever to play this game that I'd seen on the Wizard. But Jack, you also have a really fine choice.
Yeah. So, again, to echo your comments, it is extremely difficult to pick one game on the NES or any of these platforms for that matter, please. So I had to make the tough call. I went with Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse.
So good.
It's so good. It builds on everything from Castlevania. It throws away everything they did in Castlevania 2, which is great. And they had extra characters. The soundtrack is amazing. There's plenty of awesome tracks that they still use in all the Castlevania games today, and they're great. And they do some really cool stuff with some of the level design and just making it more of what you liked about the original Castlevania. is if I had to pick a desert island NES game, it's Castlevania 3.
I could definitely see that. That's the only Famicom Japanese NES game that I own is Akamojo Densetsu.
Yeah, and yes, and to echo that, if you can find the Japanese version of that game to play it, because it has way better music than the NES version.
That's the whole reason I got the Japanese version. It's because so you can hear it sounds amazing, and the emulated versions are really good too. But it adds so good, and I need to go back to Japanese class so I can read more. And then Maul, I mean, obviously this game we're all pretty partial to if you heard the intro of the show.
Yeah, I mean, so Mega Man 2, my pick. I didn't have to think about this one at all. Though I will say, like, you're right, there's so many good, like, classic NES games. There are so many that if you picked, like, any of them, I don't think anyone could fault you. Like, unless you picked, like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or something like that.
Spy versus Spy, only choice.
But there's so many good games on this console. But yeah, Mega Man 2 was one for me that when I first picked it up, I just, humble as it sounds now, I could not believe there was a game where you got to choose what order the levels were. It
was
that
amazing.
You got to go through. That was just like, it seemed revolutionary,
Yeah.
I mean, now we got open world stuff, but that at the time was crazy. The soundtrack still, like, every track's a banger in it. And it's just one that it's just super fun. It's got, like, the Mega Man platform that we all love, but it's not as punishing as Part 1 or the sequels. Like, you can just, like, play through it a little more casually, which I like. And it's the only one of the whole series I've played enough I can go through it without a single death. I've just played it so many times where the game's mapped out. I dream in Mega Man. And
Metal Blade.
That's the reason for it. Yep. I mean, the Metal Blade, that's a cheat code for the whole game, basically.
It always amazed me, just thinking about, like, the actual history of it, like, where you have Mega Man 1, which is a good game, and then not even 2 years later they come out with Mega Man 2, and just they hit it, like, they nailed it on the second try, and, like, that game onward, that's been Mega Man ever since. That they've been trying to recapture Mega Man 2 ever since.
The progression from 1 to 2 is astounding.
It is. But it was a ultimate passion project too, because the Capcom higher ups didn't really want them to do a sequel, and so the people that made it were doing it, like, on their own time. So that made it even cool. The only thing I'll say and hold against it is that Breakman's not in it. He doesn't come in till 3. But besides it, no, Mega Man 2 is the bomb. It was hard for me to not put that first as well. So I'll say that with a lot of these. Because y'all have good choices. All right, Logan. Throw me. I like your shirt, by the way. Very prescient.
Oh, yeah, dude, thanks. So, you said yours was basic. I think I'm going to beat you, though. Because mine is Super Mario Bros.
It's such a good game, though.
It is, yeah. I love the music especially. And I haven't actually played it on the NES. I played the arcade version. But
it's the same thing.
It looks identical. And yeah.
RGB colors are a little wonky.
Yeah. Because of that, I haven't really gotten terribly far into the game, but I've played, like, the first 4 levels, and I love it every time.
You should load it up on an emulator.
Yeah.
It's
I've got it.
Legally, actually, copy your own game.
Right.
Your princess is still in another castle, man. You need to go back and finish that.
I had a shirt that I wore that said that forever. Super Mario Brothers, when I teach my class and we do game design, that's the first game we look at. There's so much great stuff there. And Darria, don't you agree?
I will also echo that, but I also did not play it on the actual NES. My sister and I would fight over the Game Boy Advance cartridge. That was just the game.
It's a great way to play it.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'd go back and forth. But technically, it was her game, but we would play it back and forth.
So one really funny thing about Super Mario Brothers is it was like, we got the NES, and that was the first game we had. It was the only game we had for a while. and like we didn't really look at the manual, and my brother thought just by seeing it that all the things were bad, like stars and mushrooms and stuff. So that for the first several months we played it, we didn't know that you could get power-ups, because like we were running from the stars, and then I accidentally got hit by a star, and I was like, "Whoa, this is so cool!" And then I started touching the other things. So it was a whole new world after that situation. But moving on to our next system here, the Sega Master
There's also-
System. Oh, go ahead, Logan.
There's a
Logan.
few more comments as well. I'm
Yeah,
just
hit
kind
us
of
up.
reading them after each section.
Yeah.
So back in PC, a few more people contributed. There's Jesse Brown says Myst was OG PC. I've heard of Myst. I haven't played it, but
Good.
it's one that I really want to
good.
try sometime. And then Storm Eagle with 1989, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the graphic adventure PC game. That sounds fun. I love Indiana Jones.
I remember watching that one. I never played it.
It's a
then-
good point and click adventure.
Actually, Jack, you said that game is pretty great, but I'm partial to Fate of Atlantis. And then Storm Eagle said, I've never played Fate of Atlantis. What is that?
So that's another Indiana Jones game that came out on the PC. It was kind of an original point and click adventure from LucasArts. It's a great Indiana Jones game.
Nice. And then Storm Eagle agrees with you, Greg, that Super Mario Bros. 3 is the best NES game.
Stormy knows where it's at. Thanks, Stormy.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on. Anyone have any more NES thoughts? It's so hard to move on from that system for me. I could talk about that.
I know. Only that, like,
I wanna go
I think
get
it's
a
funny
hug.
that's Mario Brothers and Mario Bros. 3 are in our tops, but and no love for 2. I think
I
that
love
sometimes.
2.
I know 2 is such a weird game. It is one of the weirdest things that exists in gaming history. Not like any of the other ones. I mean, it is a different game entirely. They just reskinned for Mario for the US. But there's so much stuff that's in it that still pops up in other Mario Brothers games. It's just ridiculous to see how much they like morphed the mythology of the world off of that. You know?
Yeah. I'll give, like you said, there's so many great games on the NES. I can just give 3 more shout outs off the top of my head. Like, Blaster Master, Bionic Commando.
Good music on all of them, too.
Yeah. And then, man, I'd even go so far as to say, Mega Man 3's up there too.
Yeah.
So,
Breakman's
Yeah,
right.
I
can
know.
go, I
Legend
can go
of
on
Zelda.
for a little while.
So,
yeah, Legend of Zelda. Zelda 2.
Legend of Zelda, I've heard of that one. And then Little Samson is one that I played fairly recently.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's
god,
a lot of
Little
fun.
Samson.
It's so rare, but these days there's other means
I
of
think
playing
good luck
it.
finding a copy of that, but it is something.
But it's a lot of fun. I think it lives up. I wouldn't pay the price they're asking for it, but I think it lives up to being a pre. But there's so many. I mean, I love the Ninja Gaiden series. I mean, so many of these games are like all-time favorites. Ninja Gaiden 3 is the best. I agree with Try. Now that I played the Japanese version. We could talk about the NES more sometime. We might do an episode sometime later where we kind of do more elaborate into the systems, because this is just too heartbreaking and difficult. But with that, let's go into the Sega Master System, which the Sega Master System is probably the system I have probably some of the least history with, and it's not completely due to nostalgia, because the PC Engine TurboGrafx 16 I didn't play until well after its days. Probably 03, 04, 05 I started playing that system on. So it's not like nostalgia is getting me, because I love the PC Engine, but there's just something about it, the games on that system, I haven't really been able to get into as much as the others. But to pick one, Alex Kidd and Shinobi World, which is way different from the other Alex Kidd games. It's really more of a Shinobi game than it is an Alex Kidd game. And in fact, I think it was, if I remember right, supposed to be a Shinobi game. And they're like, hey, or it was a different game. And they snapped Alex Kidd on it for some reason. Because the other Alex Kidd games I haven't been a fan of. But some cool bosses in that game, and some kind of fun little tricks you can do with Alex. So I'll give it to that one. We can tell this one there's been a little bit of a drop off in enthusiasm among the group.
I wouldn't. I think that's kind of giving it short shrift. I mean, the Sega Master System is definitely not the Nintendo, and it definitely came out a lot later than the Nintendo Entertainment System did, but it's still got some great games in it. And you could tell there's a definite, like when you see some of those games side by side, you could see that there's a definite step up in quality where the developers actually took their time on stuff like that.
It's true.
But it definitely didn't have the notoriety that the NES did. But anyway, long story short, my game for the Sega Master System was Outrun. I mean, again, Afterburner, Outrun, Hang On, any of those driving / flying games from Sega in the 80s were amazing. And the home port of Outrun is awesome. Like Turbo Outrun's great. Outrunners is awesome, but Outrunners was up for the Genesis. But Outrun, the original Outrun, is where it's at for me. That you can't beat that soundtrack, and it's just so much fun. They did a great job porting that game to home, and I will fire that thing up anytime I get a chance.
Technical mastery. That's a good example of it. Advance in technology, for sure. And Maul.
Yeah, likewise, I didn't get to play a lot of the Master System. It was, growing up, there was like the big wall in Toys R Us of Nintendo, just everything Nintendo. Look at all these games, wow! And then across from it, on the other side of the wall, was kind of and what the hell is this section? And that's where the Master System games are relegated. All of them with I don't know who was the graphic designer on those boxes, but they all had like the white background with the blue grid pattern and everything. Ugly looking system. It did have some good games on it. And honestly, looking at like what's out there, interesting that system still has stuff being produced for it. So like if you're in like
Brazil.
Yeah, like South American modders like still make games to this day for that system. So there's something in the hardware that I just feel like was not unlocked during its actual lifetime.
Yeah. Hey,
But,
can I give a short plug here? So one of the guys that used to do videos for Giant Bomb, Drew Scanlon, he's Blinking Guy, if you know the meme. He actually had a YouTube channel where he went and played games around the world for a little while, and he did one from Brazil. And so he essentially spent like 45 minutes just talking about all of their gray market and modded Sega Master System stuff, because that's still just the system that everybody plays over there.
Yeah,
that's really
crazy.
Cool.
That's crazy. Can you imagine we were still playing the NES today? That was like our only system by comparison.
I'm still playing it now.
Well, yeah, but
I mean, if it's got good games.
Anyway, I didn't play like a ton on the system, but I did play a lot of Shinobi back in the day, relating back to that. So just rescuing like damsels in distress, killing lots of generic Nazi, or not Nazis. No, them too. They're in a lot of other games. Ninjas.
The one you can always get away with, right?
Yeah. And I just almost like I can still hear the the plinking sound of my ninja stars against like the 9-foot tall first bosses, body armor or whatever. So really fun stuff with that game.
It's a great one. I mean, the music's great in that too, and they did a good job porting that thing from the arcade.
Yeah, and honestly, it just hit at the right time because everything was ninjas at that time. Everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, ninjas were so great during that time period. They were great. And the Sega Master System, I know Logan has a lot of love for it, as well as Darria. Extreme amount of love.
Yeah,
what was your how will you honor the Sega Master System tonight for all of its fans?
Yeah, if you're in South America, keep doing stuff with it. I want to see more. It's really cool it's still being supported out there, but yeah, I've just never had an opportunity to try any games on it. Although I should someday.
No, I'm just joking. You're totally fine.
Yeah.
But Darria definitely has something here, right?
I will echo what Logan said. For quite a few of these systems, I'm gonna.
You guys are doing great
Yeah.
in North America.
I would say it's totally cool because, like I said, I think I was the only weirdo within like a 500-mile radius that had a Sega Master System when I was growing up. So
You had one?
I had one. I got one for Christmas in like 1990.
Cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
No one I knew had one of those things. I wouldn't have played one probably had I not worked in the game store. Like eventually somebody sold one in. They're pretty obscure.
It's one of the only systems I've never played like an actual system of. I played it the Mister, and I played on the Genesis. You can play Master Systems. I played it on there, but I've never played an actual Master System. So that's really cool that you had one. I like it looks really futuristic. I like the design of it, even though you have to push the start button on the controller. I've heard.
Yeah, the D-pads were little like smudgy. Like they felt less accurate than the Nintendo's, but like it was a decent system.
It had a built-in game too, didn't it?
Yeah, depending on which model and when you got it, you got different games. So like the one I had basically 3D Missile Command on it.
That's cool. I like Missile Command.
I don't think it was called Missile Command. It was something, but it was definitely Missile something, and it was 3D. I'll have to look it up.
Cool. That's awesome. I want to play one now. Okay. So moving on. This is a system that I did play a lot of the actual system of. And this one, the Game Boy was really cool, I think, for our era, especially because it was a really awesome game system that you could bring around with you and actually play a high quality game just anywhere. We were in the car a lot growing up, so I had a lot of time to play the system. We had Tetris. I played a lot of Tetris, Super Mario Land games. But the one that I'm going to pick is Link's Awakening because it was so much different than the other Zelda games. And it was so amazing to play a Zelda game of that quality. It was portable. And then later with DX, which I think is even better with the added color. But there's a lot of games. I think the Game Boy was a pretty phenomenal system given how what they had to work with in terms of the monochromatic screen and the technology of the time. So
amazing how long it lasted too.
Yeah.
89 to 98? Wasn't that?
I think so.
I mean, if you count the Game Boy Color, yeah. I mean, it lasted for a while.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah, because the GBA came out in what, 01?
Yeah, 01.
Wow.
Yeah, and something too. You bring up Link's Awakening, somewhat timely. Did you know that entire game was kind of inspired by Twin Peaks?
Oh my God, that's amazing! It makes total sense too. I love Twin Peaks. Rest in peace, David Lynch. We lost him very recently. Mm-hmm. Very precious.
Yeah, that just made me think of it because after his passing, there were some extra articles that were coming out online talking about how
that makes so much sense.
That inspired most of the game.
Oh, I love that. Now I want to play it again. Once the Switch 2 comes out, there's a clickbait article that came out. It was like, Switch 2 is coming out tomorrow. So tomorrow, this is not true, by the way, if anyone's going to quote me on this. It's not true. It's not coming out tomorrow. But when it does come out, that's one of the games I want to play is the Link's Awakening remake, because that frame rate, like we talked about last week, is not great. But Jack's got a really great pick here, too, that I could have also gone with.
Oh, yeah. So Donkey Kong 94. I don't know if anybody's played it, but it essentially has spawned the Mario vs. Donkey Kong franchise. It's really cool. It's a really cool bait and switch. They essentially give you, hey, it's it's Donkey Kong, the arcade version, except it's on Game Boy. And then you beat that fourth level, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, now there's an entire world. Here's an overworld map, and you're going to have to go through all these stages, and then you get to fight a boss, Donkey Kong, at the end of it. And it's got worlds. It's awesome. It's one of the first games that had Game Boy Color support, or Super Game Boy support. Sorry, but it is amazing. Turn the gameplay on its head. What's really cool is once you know about all the extra little things you could do, like the backwards jumps and the backflips and the headstands, like you can like breeze through like the first 4 levels in like 5 seconds. It's so great. You can just break the game like that. But it's fun to go back and play, especially now. You know, you see all the Mario versus Donkey Kong stuff that Nintendo's been doing over the last 10, 15 years, and that's kind of where it got started was with that game.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I knew that they had started the Donkey Kong versus Mario franchise on the Game Boy, but I didn't know that they actually included the arcade levels in it.
Yeah.
That's just a really fun thing.
Yes. No, it's really cool. They came out didn't they come around the Game Boy Pocket? Or no, that was the kid.
Yeah.
Maul. Your turn.
Yeah, I don't have like a lot of like nostalgia for a lot of the Game Boy games. And for one, I didn't own one because like I had a lot of batteries required. They would not give me one. But it's fine. And so going back and playing them, like borrowing games, playing demos and everything. Like I grant you, for the time, it was amazing. And it's like it's what we had. Here's your portable game system. Compared to like a Tiger handheld, it's fantastic. But I go back and try to play a lot of them on the original system, kind of get that feel, and it's like, man, this green on green screen is just not it. But that said, Tetris is my pick, and I could not think of like a more perfect like first game title for that system.
Mm-hmm.
I just recall the demos being hooked up throughout the year it launched, and being like at Walmart in the weeks leading up to Christmas, and just having that coming in from the cold and having that music blast and playing through the puzzles and everything, and and you just still play that forever. So as far as the portable game goes, that you just can have with you, whip out and play, for a quick car trip or a long car trip, doesn't matter. It's just it's pretty much perfection.
It is
really
pretty
is.
awesome.
It really is.
I don't know if you've seen the the Apple TV movie Tetris.
I love that movie.
I'm aware of the story though. Yeah,
it's a dramatization of it all, but it's pretty good. I mean, they do a really good job of all the different little ins and outs and just the contract stuff. It's pretty good. I would highly recommend it. There's some great documentaries though on the making of it too, which are really interesting.
Nice. Yeah. There's the cool movie on Apple TV too. All right, Logan, you're up.
Yeah.
From
I'm
Russia
gonna
with
agree
Love
with
as
you
well.
on the Tetris take. And I never actually owned a Game Boy, but I love Tetris. It's one of my favorite puzzle games, and yeah, I could play that endlessly. It's such a good road game. Like I have the app on my phone, which is basically taking over the niche of the Game Boy at this point. And yeah, Tetris is great.
Did anyone ever play Tetranet on their
No.
PC?
Never did.
That was so back in the day. You could basically host Tetranet or Tetris on your computer, but it was like Battle Tetris, kind of similar to the Versus puzzle games that came out later. And it was pretty cool. Old school 90s fun.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, the Tetris that I played was for, I think, the PlayStation, and like it was one that I could play with my sister or have just multiple people. There are different game modes for it.
Yeah.
And I loved playing that one. I didn't
Probably
play
cool
it on
music
the Game
too,
Boy.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I should
play-
try a multiplayer Tetris. I've never actually played one.
They're fun.
I did.
I love it.
Tetris
design
DS.
for one of my game design classes, like an AI that would play Tetris against me.
Oh, that's
But
cool.
I haven't actually played Tetris against another person.
Tetris
say,
DS was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Tetris DS, Tetris 99. If you've got a Switch and you've got the online pass, is
Oh.
really fun.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's a good point.
And it's still pretty active too. I would always recommend Tetris the Grandmaster if you want to get stupid crazy and see like what high level insane Tetris skills look like.
I don't want to.
It's YouTube videos of it. It's insanity.
Do you want to
it's-
feel inadequate? Look that up.
I'm terrible at Tetris. No, I'm so bad at Tetris. No, it's probably really cool. I actually probably will watch it, but I am so bad at Tetris that it's like by my word game. But a couple people I've just seen Pokemon flash on the thing over there. Pokemon, of course, started on the Game Boy and was like the big game that everyone loves. And I just have to say I got Pokemon Blue when it came out. The first Pokemon game here in the States, and I just could never get into Pokemon. And I tried really hard with Blue. I played it, and then I tried a few other times throughout the years, and I always wanted to. I like the designs of the Pokemon. I mean, I like JRPGs, so you'd think I would.
I'd say it's very much in your wheelhouse in that regard.
Isn't it bizarre? Like everyone's like, "Oh, you'd love it," and then I just don't. I don't like to collect things, except unless they're video games. So maybe that's it.
Your game collection disagrees with you on that.
Yeah, right. I had to qualify that pretty quick.
I think there's a little bit of time and place thing because like I was kind of we're the same age. Like when Pokemon came out, I was already on Super Nintendo and I was in Final Fantasy. I was like, this is a kiddie RPG. I don't want to mess with this thing. And now here I am, 25, 30 years later. I'm like, hey, I got Pokemon Go. I got to catch all my Pokemon on this thing, and I got to go get my stops, and we're going. By the way, if anybody's on Pokemon Go, hit me up on the chat, and I will definitely give you my username so we can be friends.
Oh, cool. I have not played Pokemon Go yet, but maybe that will be the Pokemon that will get me into it. So, all right. So this next system, I really have come to like the TurboGrafx 16 PC engine. I played it a little bit on emulator back in 2004-ish to 2006. And then I got a Turbo Duo a few years ago, and then I have a PC engine now as well. That has the turbo or the Crix card that does everything. Turbo EverDrive Pro. But I've really come to like this system a lot. It's become one of my absolute favorite systems, and this was really hard for me to pick a game for because there's a lot of them that I could go with, and I turn it on quite a bit and play it. But the one that I turn on the most, and again in my video game class when I show the TurboGrafx, and I'm like, look how much better this looks than the Nintendo, and look, the advancements in games. The game that I invariably show is Soldier Blade, which it looks great. I've really come to love STGs, shmups, if you will, whatever. And Soldier Blade just looks beautiful, and it has some really great gameplay, some awesome music. So if you're gonna have a first game on the PC engine, there's a lot you could go with. But I would say Soldier Blade.
Soldier Blade is pretty awesome. As shmups go, it's right up there. I mean, and there's some fantastic ones on that system too.
For sure. But speaking of which, Jack, you also have a really great pick here.
Yeah, so it was really tough for me because I do love the TurboGrafx 16 as well. Like, it is a system that unfortunately just came out wrong place, wrong time, and with some bad marketing around it, and I think bad pricing too, at least here in the States. But regardless, Bomberman 93. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you're going to tell me. Bomberman 93 was the pinnacle of Bomberman. It kind of all went downhill from there. It's got multiplayer. It's got 4-player multiplayer. It's frenetic. It's fast. It's got a good single-player campaign. Music's great. If you stuck me in a room with 3 other people and you said, this is what you have to play for the next 24 hours, I'd be like, bring it on. Let's go. This is going to be a lot of fun. And we'd probably come to blows at some point, but it would be a lot of fun.
Or bombs.
Yeah.
Nice choice. I like the music in that one too. But Maul has another one that I think is a great choice as
well. For me it was Splatterhouse, which I originally went back and played. Actually, there's an arcade, a coin op at the Dave & Buster's near my place. It has a bunch of old arcade games. You play them. They collect the quarters for charities, whatever. But they had Splatterhouse on there. And it's not a game that really stands out gameplay wise. It's pretty typical side scroller beat 'em up, but just for the controversy at the time, and because oh my god, it's got blood and guts. You punch a zombie and it explodes. And for me being a horror fan, that was the game that we as kids would whisper about and talk about having played and wish we had copies of and stuff. Because you looked like Jason Voorhees. The story was super edgelordy, and you just got to mash stuff and get weapons and hack stuff up and smash them with baseball bats, and it's kind of a precursor to the Mortal Kombat era of extreme violence in games. And by today's standard, it's pretty tame, but at the time it was something else. So I always remember that one.
Yeah.
Awesome.
One of the things that I hated about, I loved and hated about that game was after you beat the boss, there was always that one last little thing that would get you, and you'd have like one heart left, and it would just it would piss me off so much.
Yep. The final scream's got to get you. Oh, by the way, Ray, I think we should mention, just in case anyone's wondering, that Darria didn't have a pick for the Game Boy. You didn't just skip her.
Oh
on that
yeah,
one, 'cause you went right by.
I was trying to be smooth that time. So if from here on out, if I skip someone, it's probably because they don't have a pick for that choice. But I do appreciate.
Okay, just let it be known, because I think everyone otherwise after that first mistake is going to think like,
Break
what are you
skipped her
doing?
again. Yeah, no.
You villain.
I will. I'm very glad you're here, Taria. I will try not to silence you again. Let your voice be heard. But Logan,
I know I'll have plenty to talk about later.
I know you do. I know, and we're it's good to have the younger voices here. Without the people that walk with canes. So, Logan, if you'd like to hit us up in the chat room there.
Yeah. So yeah, there's been a number of. I'm gonna start after Pokemon Blue, I think. OG Pokemon are always the best from Nick of Time. Yeah. OG Pokemon are pretty good, although I have been enjoying some of the newer Pokemon games that I've picked up as well. Storm Eagle says DS version of Tetris is the best of them all.
I agree.
I'm gonna have to try it. I've never actually had
Stormy and I are
DS,
agreeing
but-
on everything tonight. Wow.
And then Nick of Time says, so they have an MMORPG version of Pokemon now. It's called Poke MMO. And it's basically all the handheld games on the server where you can battle, buy, trade, sell, and just play the OG games with friends. That sounds really cool. I'm going to have to look at that. That's like
I got to see that.
the perfect,
That's cool.
perfect Pokemon game.
That's not pretty cool for sure. Yeah.
And Storm Eagle says, Jack's right about Bomberman 93. Bomberman's another series I haven't played, but I'm going to have to try it. Nick of Time, I love the Donkey Kong Country games. Yep, Donkey Kong Country Returns on Wii. Such a good game. I'll stand by that.
I think Try is gonna join us and attack you.
Oh no!
Bring it on.
Oh wow! It's so passionate about the Wii Donkey Kong. It's intense. It's intense. I love the SNES ones, the good ones.
And then
You can no response to that.
I haven't actually played those, but I'm gonna have to go back and try them. I haven't had an.
The
There's
music,
a lot of old
no wonder
consoles I
you like
haven't
the
had.
Wii one.
Yeah, I love the Wii one because I played it with my brother all the time. Like we'd co-op Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong. It was great.
No, it's like what you like. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. Like what you like.
But I do need to play the older ones because that was so good. I want to see where they came from.
The music's great too. It's David Wise.
Yeah, it was Wise all three of them, or was who's the other guy from Rare? Wise and
I know he did the first one, and that's the one that I have the soundtrack. So maybe someone else did the other ones. But I know that aquatic song. I like every time that comes on. I have a OST playlist. That's one I always play a couple times when it comes around on shuffle. But again,
super relaxing.
Oh, it's so relaxing. It's like when I hadn't played Donkey Kong in forever, and that song came on, and I was like, "That's from Donkey Kong." Like that, like I would not hear that relaxing song and think giant ape eating bananas. It's just not where I go with that. But again, go ahead.
I looked it up. It was Grant Kirkhope.
Oh,
Kirkhope
good.
and Wise. Those were the two guys.
For all three.
Well, for anything that Rare put out, basically from the NES up until I don't know, the GameCube.
Oh, okay. Before Grabbed by the Ghoulies, basically.
No, they did the music for that too.
Oh, okay. I might have to listen to the soundtrack then. Okay, and I'm not skipping Logan and Darria, just to preface that, since I, skipped Darria earlier. We're moving on though to the duo. Or the CD add-on, which I found out a lot more about this in recent years. It added, RAM to the system, and there's other RAM upgrades that you could get. Some pretty cool stuff with the system. And again, this is one I went over and over again. Some of the best games for the Turbo are on the CD. A lot of them are Japanese only, unfortunately. But I went around and around in circles with this, and there's so many I could have picked, and it was very frustrating and fun as well. And I ultimately came up with Gate of Thunder, and again, it came back to what's the game that that I play the most of, that I replay all the time, that I just, when I play the Turbo, it's probably either Gate of Thunder or Lords of Thunder, and I had to go with Gate of Thunder because I just feel like I play it more. So
I've never played that. What kind of game is it?
It's a shooting game. It's a horizontal shooting game, and it's has really great music. The music is similar to Lords of Thunder, and it's just amazing music. There's actually, if you play it, there's a patched version that turns down the shooting, the pew pews, because they're mixed too loud. It's like pew pew pew, and you can barely hear like this amazing guitar work in the background. So there's a patch that mixes it so you can hear the guitar better. But it's probably it's one of my favorite shooters, and it's not overly hard either. So it's one that you can get into pretty quickly, and it's one of those that if you'd have seen back in the day, I think you'd have been like, wow, the Turbo can do those graphics. Like, not that I'm a complete graphic person, but it's a pretty looking game.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with Lords of Thunder. That one is definitely up there for sure.
Oh, so. Yeah. I love Lords of Thunder. But Jack, you have again. Oh, and I didn't mention the one that is gonna come forth, but this one could easily be mine as well.
Oh yeah, so Dracula X Rondo of Blood. I don't know if you picked up a theme here yet, but I'm kind of a Castlevania fan, and yeah, again, Castlevania. It's a new protagonist. It's got CD quality audio. The gameplay is fantastic. There's multiple endings. And there's alternate characters you can play through. It's a really cool package. It's the last real side scroller Dracula X / Castlevania game that they really did. But they really sent it out with a bang, and it's if you can find it on, like, there's a Castlevania Dracula X collection for like PlayStation. You can get it on PS4/PS5. I think it's on sale a lot. You can get it for less than $20. Highly recommend it if you like Castlevania games. It's a fantastic version of it, and it's definitely up there on the Turbo Duo.
And this just made me remember something about that system. You got me into Turbo because I watched you play Rondo on an emulator. I just remembered that. So I was like, oh my God, I have got to get this emulator working. Because you had to get like a BIOS and stuff, and I'd never done it before. But you were to thank.
Yeah, I remember that as I was telling that story. I just remembered, I think I spent, I don't know, maybe the better part of 2 weeks at your condo trying to get that silly thing to work because they had finally, it was like a project somebody on the internet had worked on for like 2 years, trying to get a good dump of that CD. And somebody finally did it. And I was like, okay, I've got to get this thing to work. And I ended up, I think, paying money for an emulator that I probably didn't need to.
Magic Engine.
I still have Magic Engine, and I still have that code somewhere on one of my computers. But yeah, it was worth it. It was worth it in the end.
Yes. Awesome. Cool. That just drug up that. And Maul, I think you also have a similar story to tell.
Yeah. Well, the same game. Yeah, Rondo of Blood. Jack and I actually we have a lot of similar picks. You can tell we're both like platformer action Castlevania fans and everything. So even like on some, if it wasn't like, if my pick wasn't his pick, they were still like they were within the like 2 or 3 spaces of each other in the countdown. So
yeah.
But no, like this is yeah. I mean, it's just a great game. Everything Jack said about it there is fantastic. It's like. The only thing that you could maybe like add to it would be like multi-directional whipping, like from Castlevania 4, in order to make it like a complete, like perfect package. But graphics are amazing, music's great, replayability is through the roof on this one. It's fantastic. So if you're a Castlevania fan, you haven't played that one, you got to hunt it down.
Sure, and you can play as Maria. So
yeah,
you got everything covered. And again. Logan, if you want to catch us up on the chat before we move on to the Mega Drive / Genesis.
Yeah. Storm Eagle shouts out R-Type 3 was amazing. Another game I haven't heard of. Nick of Time says the water levels music on DKC is bumping. Donkey Kong Country has great music. And then Storm Eagle, Rondo of Blood is goated.
Oh, it's so good.
I'm gonna have to try this.
Oh, it's
Game.
so good. It's another
yes.
game like when I show like because the Turbo, essentially came out in '89, '87 in Japan, and it had like Rondo of Blood, on the CD add-on, and the fact that it was on there is, such amazing for so many different reasons. So yeah, if you haven't played the library of either the PC Engine, TurboGrafx-16, or the Duo, or any of those systems, you should definitely check them out because there's some really awesome stuff. It was beating the Famicom in Japan there for a while.
Wow.
So next we have, again, one of the all-time greatest systems of all time. And this one was so hard for me to pick as well. This one I actually probably struggled the most with in terms of going back and forth between games. I almost did, Streets of Rage 2 because I played that a ton. I almost did Sonic the Hedgehog because I played that a lot. But then, and Shinobi 3 is a fantastic. I love Shinobi 3. I finally beat it here in the last year.
Nice.
Yeah, those last couple levels with the jumps are nuts. But I finally came down to Thunder Force 4. Because it's the game when I turn on my Genesis and I play the most these days. I replay it all the time. There's the level with all the I've used it in that video with Cry. All that parallax scrolling with the clouds and the water just look beautiful, and the gameplay in that game is some of my favorite of any shooter. The power-ups and the difficulty, again, I'm not like afraid of difficulty, but I feel like the shooters that kind of hit that midpoint where it's not just like you want to bang your head against the wall because it's so hard, but then it's also not so easy. It's just like a lock and spark, and I feel like Thunder Force 4 does a good job of balancing that and having some just amazing music. Like the music is great, and there's a SSH does a kind of a remix of one of the songs that is absolutely astounding. I heard it on GameStack a while ago, and it's really good. It's really good. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Thunder Force 4 or Lightning Force for the States. They had this successful series of Thunder Force 1, 2, and 3, and then Sega of America's like, let's change it to Lightning Force and spell lightning wrong because that's gonna sell a lot of units. Great idea there. Go ahead with
on
your
a tear, right?
yeah. Go ahead, do your pick, Jack.
Yeah, so my pick is Streets of Rage 2. Like Breakman mentioned, the Streets of Rage series is awesome. 1 is amazing, has some great music. 2 is even better, it has great music. 3 kind of takes a drop off, but it's still good. But 2 is the one, if you want a good side-scrolling beat 'em up or a belt action game, if you will. It's one of the best ones out there. Yuzo Koshiro does some amazing stuff with the Genesis sound chip, and
Oh my god.
that's all I can say about it. If you couldn't tell, I love like good music will get you a long way in a game with me.
Especially Yuzo Koshiro. Did you know he's making a new Genesis game?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Really?
Yeah, he's making a new, it's a shoot 'em. It's going to be on modern platforms too, but it's actually you can buy it as a Genesis cartridge as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's pretty exciting. That's going to be awesome. But Streets of Rage 2, some of my absolute favorite video game music. I mean, it's hard to beat. It used to be my ringtone for a while. Yeah, that used to be my
Yeah.
ringtone.
Nice.
But Maul, hit us
Like
up
you're
with
doing
your
the end music to Phantom Menace there for a second. Let's see. So Genesis, when I didn't own one of these growing up, I played a lot of the library when I was in the game shop. Which, funny story, always famously talk about how at the time, like retro gaming wasn't really like in vogue yet. Like there were only a few generations into the console wars when I started there. Like the PlayStation 1 was still fairly recent. So like any of the systems that were before it weren't like old classics. They were just old. So we had a Genesis for a doorstop at the shop, and we always had just piles of old Genesis that nobody wanted just laying around. So I had like a complete library to play. Anyway, though, like for me, we could always lean into Phantasy Star and some of the RPGs, and there's some good stuff. There's some really good obscure gems in the system, but the one that always filled me with envy that I did not have, but a few of my Genesis friends did, was X-Men. And honestly, both the X-Men titles on there. Now, eventually, the Super Nintendo did get an X-Men title, and it was good, the one that Capcom put out. But those Genesis ones, man, there's just something really interesting and inventive about them. I always go back and note the weirdness of the level where you have a bomb, and to defuse the bomb, it tells you to reset.
Yeah.
And the trick is you have to actually reset your system in order to deactivate the bomb before it blows up and kills you. Who would have thought of that? Why was that a thing in the game? I don't know. But it's intensely invented. I really like the selection of X-Men characters that are on there. And then, if you go on to part 2, I don't think it's quite in some ways the classic the first one is, or at least as widely played and remembered, but the graphic improvement on that one is fantastic. It's amazing, the detail levels and everything on that when it came out. So, as a young comic collector kid, that game just, I wanted a copy so bad. So.
Oh yeah, I like that. I actually really like the second one. You can do co-op in that one, and it's one of the later Genesis games. That's awesome.
It's also great. I mean, I remember the first one very fondly, but they're both fantastic. Yeah,
for sure. Well, Logan, I know you have a good pick for us here.
Yeah, mine will have to be Sonic 3 and Knuckles. For a number of reasons. I'm a big fan of all the Sonic, especially the Genesis games, because I really love the fast-paced physics platformer nature of it. It just gives me a good thrill while I'm playing it. But specifically for Sonic 3 and Knuckles, visually, it looks great. It's my favorite looking of all the Genesis Sonic games, and the music is fantastic, as it is in all the Sonic games, but especially in that one. And I also just really like the gimmick of the Knuckles part of Sonic 3 Knuckles. Such a creative use of the cartridge to allow a second cartridge to be plugged into the first one. You just don't see stuff like that anymore. It's fascinating that they were able to get that to work. So I just think it's really cool.
No, I like that you picked Sonic 3. It's I think an underrated Sonic game. I think because of when it came out, it doesn't have the love that 1 and 2 have. But I think it's probably, if you look at it really objectively, it's probably the best game. And Michael Jackson did the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Right? Or at least part of it.
Now, would you consider the Knuckles part of that game to be the first DLC?
Quite possibly. Quite possibly. And I guess maybe not DLC, because I don't know, is that kind of downloadable?
Well, I remember when it came out, and I didn't know when it came out that it was a whole other game. I thought it just added Knuckles into Sonic 3, and so I wasn't super interested in it. And then later I read about how actually Sonic Knuckles and Sonic 3 together are what Sonic 3 was intended to be, but due to development delay, and they wanted to get Sonic 3 out, they released kind of half the game as Sonic 3, and then Knuckles, and then Knuckles could work with Sonic 2 as well.
Yeah, the Sonic 2 thing is really cool. The fact they really made the most of that add-on by allowing them to do that.
Yeah, no, that was really cool, and that's a cool hardware pick as well. Speaking of Sega hardware, what a transition. Going into one of the most fabled, positive looked upon systems of all time, the Sega CD. Right? No, the Sega CD has a lot of. I think if you look through the library now, and there are a few really good games for it. There's a lot of FMV stuff and all that that you can kind of maneuver around. But if you look at some of the other games, there's some cool stuff on there, more than I had thought initially. So I'm gonna go ahead and do my pick, Popful Mail, which I had seen randomly in magazines, screenshots of it, and I just thought that was a cool name. I didn't really understand what it meant, but it just kind of flowed. And I like the anime pictures. But I never played it until very, very recently. Actually, My Life in Gaming, they, especially Corey, loves that game, and they talked about it quite a bit. And I played it, and it's awesome. It's really, really good. And it's the music, and it's really fabulous as well. But it's a really nice, kind of side-scrolling adventure RPG action type game. Lots of different fun elements, and it's definitely, I think, the best version of Popful Mail. There's a couple others that exist, and I would say that that's the best. So if you haven't played Popful Mail, I would give it to that. If it had been a year ago, I would have said Sonic CD hands down. But I played Popful Mail. I have to give it there. All right,
Nice.
Jack.
Yeah, so my choice was tough. Like Brick said, I was really waffling between Sewer Shark and this one. But I ended up picking The Adventures of Willy Beamish, and it's one of those games. It's a point and click adventure game that has speech, which is why it was on the Sega CD. Not particularly memorable, but one of my friends had it, and I played it at his house all the dang time, and so it really stuck with me. And it's a fun, funny point and click adventure game about a kid and his frog. And just kind of the antics that the frog ends up getting him into. It's a cool little game. Doesn't hold up super well now, but it's fun, and you should just watch a YouTube playthrough because it probably takes like 45 minutes.
Cool choice. My Sega CD got dropped down the stairs. A friend was. We were moving it upstairs, and he was carrying it, and it dropped, and it literally went kaboom, 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 all the way, and it never worked again. So it was a depressing time.
It was not built like the GameCube. No, sir.
It was the GameCube. The GameCube would still be working. The Sega CD was like, but Maul, you have a really nice choice here as well.
Yeah, I picked Snatcher for it. Now, this is one of the Sega CD is another one that I had to play in retrospect. And Snatcher is just one of those legendary titles. So if you haven't played it, it's an early game from Hideo Kojima. Konami letting him kind of run wild with it, and it's basically Blade Runner. And a lot of these Snatchers are replicants that have gone rogue and are killing people. And so you're playing through, it's like a point-and-click detective game that takes you into a mystery with an amazing narrative and cool kind of cutscenes and everything. And on top of it being kind of a fun mystery with the point-and-click thing, but it gets into shooting segments as well. So to get the full experience, you have to have the light gun so you can blast your way through those segments as well. So kind of going back and forth between shooter and RPG, which is really cool. It's a really unique game, really in-depth story. It's one that has become kind of a legend afterwards. And because of that, you're paying a lot if you ever try to find a copy. So, but luckily, for no reason at all, do I know that the Sega CD does not have any sort of copy protection on it. So it can just play anything you put into it. It doesn't know what is a real game and what is not.
Not endorsed by
hey.
I stole that line from you, actually. I recently heard you say that on one of the old shows. Yeah, Snatcher, I haven't beaten it. I need to beat it.
I need to play it. I haven't even played it yet.
Oh.
Yeah, it's cool. It's I mean, at the time, too, it's super, mature and weird. The fact that it was ever marketed to, the kids of the day is fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
No wonder it didn't do great. we all grew up. We're like, wow, this is amazing.
Awesome.
I'm not averse to reading anymore.
Literacy. Thanks to Snatcher. Thank you, Kojima-san. And Logan, why don't you hit us with your pick?
Yeah, so I'm going Sonic CD, Sonic again. And
Sonic
I
Boom.
just really... Yeah, that's a really cool opening, the animated intro there. But I just really like the time travel mechanic and how they went out of their way to make 3 versions of each level to represent the present, past, and future. That is so wild to me that they did that, and it's fun just seeing the differences between all the levels.
Such a great choice.
Yeah, what a cool gimmick that is. That like it could just be like a remake of the original, and it is that. But then that Link to the Time Travel thing on top of it. It's pretty cool.
If you play the Japanese version, there's a whole different soundtrack. Both soundtracks are great. Yeah, both soundtracks are great, but Sega of America heard the Japanese one, are like, nope. And so they had a new soundtrack made, and it's
You're like, nope, this is too cool.
nope. Well, there was the like when Sega of Japan and America were really like angry with each other because it was like a competition which Sonic 2 would be Sonic 2, and they're both trying to make Sonic 2, and Sonic 2 that became Sonic 2 was the American one that Yuji Naka was in California working on, and then the one that was made in Japan ended up becoming Sonic CD. Which is why Sonic CD looks so much like Sonic 1, because they took a lot of assets from Sonic. But yeah, it's more exploration based too. Yeah. Yeah, I just want to add thanks for all the comments here we're getting here. If you want to say anything, you can definitely do it in our YouTube and our Twitch, anywhere. And also, you can join our Discord. Go to BreakmanX.com, hit up the Discord, and chat with us anytime, not just Wednesday. So, if you want that, we'll be there for you. So next system, again, this is again one of the all-time greats. A really hard system to choose from, and I've been playing more SNES lately because I got the Voltar fix that fixes the SNES, and apparently I was actually the first one to get the fix. He wrote on my box that I was the first one that he did, which was really nice of him to do that. So I'll have to ask him about that when he's on, if that's true. But but no, it's the SNES is so amazing. And again, there's so many games that you could pick. It's like ridiculous how many great games, and you pick one. And I've changed this 4 times. But going back to it, when I think like what's the quintessential SNES game for me that I just want to play over and over again, that I like every single aspect of it, I have to go with Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. I mean, that game hooked me. I rented it so many times before I finally bought it. It just was such an impactful game from beginning to end, and it set up the Zelda formula that lasted up until Breath of the Wild finally broke it. You basically are playing Link to the Past over and over again with different characters, and things, and different world maps, until finally Breath of the Wild flipped things up. But Link to the Past, so good in every way. It's close to being a perfect game. I don't think a perfect game exists. Oh, and I just saw Mega Man X out of the close one of my eyes. It was so hard not to pick one of those. It was so hard not to pick one of the Mega Man X games because I love all of the Mega Man, and especially Mega Man X. But I can't. I'm just not going to look over there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to Jack with his pick.
Yeah, so my pick was also tough. I echo Break's sentiments. Like you could stick me in a room with the Super Nintendo and about 20 games, and I'd probably love all of them. But Sunset Riders is my favorite, and it sounds really dumb. It's a port of a Konami arcade game. It's a side-scrolling shooter. It's Wild West themed. It's got some fun music. It's got some fun boss battles. It's just action. And while it isn't the 4-player version that the arcade game is, it's a great 2-player game. It's great co-op. Just a lot of fun. That anytime I pick up a Super Nintendo or just pick up a controller, that's like the first memory that pops into my head. But yeah, Sunset Riders is my game for that system.
Excellent choice.
Where does Sunset Riders fit in the Castlevania series? I don't really
Yeah. Like I said, it's really tough. Super Castlevania 4 is a great game on that system, but Sunset Riders just has a special place in my heart, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's the game that he also turned me on to that one. I hadn't played that before, Jack. It's very good. But Maul again it breaks my heart not to pick the game he chose too. So
yeah. Well, I had to. It's my favorite game, probably of all time. So if anybody knows me well enough to have that conversation, it has to be Chrono Trigger, which I'm wearing a shirt for today. There we go.
Nice.
No, this was great. This is one that I bought, or had actually bought for me for Christmas. I asked for it for Christmas one year, based on solely the box art, which I didn't realize at the time was drawn by Akira Toriyama of Dragon Ball Z fame. And knew there was a cool time travel gimmick because of Nintendo Power, explaining like how the things you did in the past affected the other time zones and everything. And I thought that sounded amazing. So let's give it a go. And that game was $85 when it came out in whatever the hell year that was. But man, it's really expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was the only good thing I got from my grandma that Christmas. And she was so thrilled at like how much I loved that game. And because I usually I'd usually get a game, I'd beat it too fast, you know, and then she'd be like, I spent all that money and you're already done with it. And that was when I just played and the New Game Plus, and you play it again. But that's one that like the narrative is, I mean, the gameplay is great. I love the co-op kind of thing between the different characters. You're discovering different combos with their powers. I like the active battle system, where like other JRPGs at the time, you can choose to skip battles, and different enemies move at different speeds, and it changes the turn order. It kind of like capstones everything that Squaresoft was doing with the Final Fantasy series at the time. Looks great, amazing soundtrack, but just the narrative got me. Like that was for a young guy, like a 8th grader, whatever it was when that came out, just playing through that, falling in love with the characters, saving the world from the apocalypse. Like it got me. I was in that game. Like I lived through that game story, and nothing else has really quite grabbed me in the same way since. That's me chasing the dragon forever, trying to find that level of experience again that I had with that game, and it will never happen. That will be my rosebud on my deathbed. I will say Chrono Trigger as I expire.
The Chrono Trigger is so amazing that even though I have my soundtracks on completely random, it chose a Chrono Trigger song, and it's the Firebrand X amazing high quality rip of it too. The Primitive Mountain, the Back in Time song.
It knew.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. That doesn't really happen, the random. But such a great pick, Chrono Trigger. I mean, all of these picks are astounding.
That's one like you talked forever about a certain remake that you're gonna get into later, I'm sure here.
I don't know what you're talking about. Not quite sure what that might be.
That I would be like, I would like to play a 3D version of this, and it like kills me that Squaresoft has not put out anything other than really clunky like remaster versions on other handheld systems that run so slow. I don't know what the deal is, because on the Super Nintendo, no lag, no pause, going between menus. PlayStation version, 8 seconds. I timed it between each menu change. So you're trying to switch between items and spells and whatever. Oh my god, that kills you. It adds up so fast.
Not worth the FMV.
No, but they tried to like the fandom tried to make like a PlayStation 2 or 3 level 3D remake of it, and Squaresoft put the kibosh on it, saying that they were going to do something themselves one of these days, and then they never have. Just damn it, man, do something with that series, So good.
Yeah.
All right, Logan, you probably actually have one of my also most played SNES games. And if you haven't played, I think it's go ahead, say it, and then I'll say what I'm gonna say.
F-Zero. F-Zero.
It's it could have been another game started with an F.
It could have.
It really couldn't have.
There's Final Fantasy.
Final F Final.
Yeah. I haven't played that many SNES games, but I played F-Zero, mostly because I was interested in trying F-Zero GX, but I didn't really have a way of trying it at the time, so I tried the SNES one, and it was great. I was pretty impressed for a console that old that it was capable of doing, like so many cars out on the track and, moving fast, kind of like the Sonic games, but in a more like, 3D way, which is kind of cool. Early experimentation with that. And again, the fast-paced, fun racing gameplay, especially for a console at the time, was great.
Yeah, that was the first SNES game I played on when I got it for Christmas. That game absolutely blew me away with what it looked like. So what I was gonna say is it's either F-Zero Final or F-Zero Complete, somewhere along the lines of that. But it adds in the courses from some of like the GBA games and the SNES, like the BS, the satellite games. And it also will save. It has save functionality in it, so it'll save your best times, whereas the original one doesn't save. So there's some other stuff I think too, but you should check it out if you haven't. So we are not even quite into the lifetimes of Darria and Logan. They have not been born yet in where we're going. But I knew this was going to be a multi-part episode, and I really like hearing what everyone has to say about the games. But I didn't want to go through things quickly, so we will be, finishing this up next week. But I think we decided we want to go one more round, folks. Anyone going to fight me on that? All right. So this next one again. Going up to the Game Gear, which had a great advertising campaign. That guy hitting himself in the head with the squirrel to see color on the Game Boy was such a great ad for Sega to show this. But the Game Gear was a system again I didn't play a whole lot of, and there's something about that because it's very similar to the Master System hardware wise that just doesn't click with me. And it's me, it's not you, it's me. But Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I really like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for the Sega Game Gear. I know it's not the greatest game on the Game Gear. That's Master System. So yeah, I'm just gonna have to go with that. It's not the greatest game, but I didn't have a whole lot of Game Gear games to play, and that's one of the ones I had. And it's Morphin time. So
yeah, I mean it's certainly one of those games on there, man.
It is a game on the Game Gear.
It is a game. No, it's fun. It's fun. My choice isn't too much better. Again, like with the Game Gear, it was interesting to me what they would do differently. Just like the Game Boy, they did different ports for different stuff. That came out on the Genesis. The Sonic 2, the Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, even Sonic Chaos, all those games are completely different from their counterparts that came out on the Genesis. The most unique one to me is Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I thought it was not a better game than Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on Genesis, but it definitely felt unique and different, and it seemed like they were trying to go for different things. So I don't know if, like, break to what you were talking about earlier, maybe this was something where Sega Japan made the different game than what Sega of America was doing, but I always think about that game when I think about the Game Gear.
Awesome. Yeah, I've actually never played it. I should play it. We were talking about Yuzo Koshiro earlier, and he did the soundtrack for the 8-bit version of Sonic that was on the Master System, which is some fun music, which isn't really relevant to what we're talking about other than 8-bit Sonic. But
it came out on Game Gear.
It did. Oh, it did. That's right. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Okay. Going back to a minute ago when I thought. Okay. Maul, enlighten us.
Yeah, I wasn't like enthralled with a lot of the Game Gear stuff. Similar to the Game Boy, I always had a really hard time seeing the screen on the the Game Gear. Had the advantage of having
very
color,
blurry.
But the way that like the screen covering like reflected the light, and if you had like any scratching on there at all, like good luck, you just like it did not backlight the screen very much, so it was just very difficult.
It ate a battery every time you like turned around too.
Oh.
Yeah, true. I wasn't really starting to get like into like what handhelds could be until like the Nomad, came out later down the line, which itself. Not playing handheld games, but it was cool that it gave you an option, like for like full power, games when they're portable. In retrospect, I went through had a Game Gear case at the game shop, and one that I avoided playing for so long because the cover art is so boring. It's like you just see like the top of a globe and like some blank space, and then like the bottom of a guy's chin, and that's
Chin
all.
World.
Yeah, it's so it's. I was just like, what the hell is that game? One day I finally popped it in, and Psychic World is actually very Mega Man-ish.
Oh.
So immediately I was like, oh, this is cool. Yeah, it's a platforming like side scroll kind of shooter, but your character has like psychic powers, which you get like a bunch of different abilities through the course of the game as you explore the different labyrinths and everything, and you pick them up and you have like a menu of different little power shots that you collect and can build up, and you're having to manage your psychic power meter on top of your HP so you can use those powers, because like a lot of like a Metroidvania, like you need to use those different powers to access different levels of the map. And it's just very fast, kind of floaty as far as the controls and the feel of the game. But that's very cool. And yeah, I know, since you're a Mega Man fan, I would recommend you check it out sometime as well and just kind of see what different stuff the Game Gear could offer.
I will definitely check. And I had to look up this this box art with what the description that you gave it, and I'm actually gonna have to share it with our audience, because this is one of the more amazing pieces of box art that I've ever seen. So I'm showing it to everybody. Psychic World. This chin is amazing. Like, how could you not see that chin and be like, that is the game I want to buy?
Even more so, imagine on the actual cartridge though, it's clipped in. So it's just the top of the planet and the bottom of the chin, and it says Psychic World between them. And that's all you can see.
Do you think they just gave that to the artist and said, just Psychic World, just do something?
It looks like he's like at a crystal ball, like at a fair somewhere, like that's...
Yeah, now compare that though, Break, can you find the Japanese cover art?
Oh, the Japanese one is much cooler. Yeah, I can grab it.
Yeah, like it actually sells what the game is.
Distract them for a second while I download it.
Yeah, I don't... sometimes we just have the weirdest... It's like the Mega Man 1 box art. Like, why did we do that sometimes? It's so distractingly bad that they lost some sale. Look at that. Look how much better that is. It's one that your main character is a girl with psychic powers, not a dude with a chin.
Yeah, I would play this game.
Like,
There's
I don't know where that
the
guy
floating eye monsters. That looks interesting.
Yeah. I mean, anime, they must have thought no one liked anime at the time, right?
That was the thing.
You got your little kaiju down there in the bottom right? Yeah, man.
Yeah. I want to play this now that I've seen the non-chin version.
That's where it's at, for sure.
There's so many. The Japanese box art is always so much. Well, not always, but a lot of the times, so much cooler.
Often.
So we are again not even close. Oh no, close. We're almost to the lifetimes of Darria and Logan. Getting close to them existing in this world.
About 10 years away from me.
But as you've seen so far, this is the absolute definitive, no argument list of best games ever that no one in the YouTube comments could ever disagree with. Especially Power Rangers. But we will finish this sometime this season of the game show. It depends on how our guests' schedules end up working out exactly when we'll finish. But we'll do a part 2 here very, very soon, if not next week, because I'm excited to talk about the rest of these games. We're only up to 1991.
Hey, we made it
Good
through
Lord.
15 years.
Yeah, that's true. That is a lot of game history. But no, this has been a really, really fun show. It does remind me of the old days. It's been great to hear everyone's perspective on the games and to learn, which ones are favorite, and to also be jealous when you pick one that I picked. So with that, Jack. Go ahead, Maul.
I was just say like two things. One, it's amazing looking at the games we all pick, how often the launch title of the system is still like in the discussion. They really go like best foot forward right at the beginning, and then kind of not again until the end of the system's life. It's kind of where the good stuff is stacked at a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But two, we're gonna have a third part of this, because we need the all Darria episode where she goes back and plays all the old systems that she wasn't alive for yet and can fill us in on what she loved from each of those.
Yeah,
That'll be fun.
you need to emulate.
fun.
You need to emulate at least the choices. At Chrono Trigger, you need to play Chrono Trigger. That's when I have my
I
students
can't
play that
remember
one.
if you had mentioned Chrono Trigger or Chrono Cross to me.
Chrono Cross, because I was playing it when you were here that day, which I love Chrono Cross. But Chrono Trigger is one of the absolute best games of all time. And I have my students play. It's really fun because at first they're like, "What do I do? I don't know what to do." And I was like, "Figure it out. That's the game design. Just do it." And they do, which is really fun to watch because they all are playing it individually on all the different screens, and you just see them kind of gradually going through the different things there at the beginning and the great music. But with that said, Jack, what would you like to say to send us off?
Well, I'm gonna use this time just to plug something. I have decided to do something very stupid for the 5th year in a row. I am going to be running around
great
downtown Kansas City in my underwear this February 15th for charity. It's called the Cupid's Undie Run. It's gonna be me and 300-ish friends running around downtown Kansas City. We have to run a mile in our underwear in the freezing cold in the middle of February. So last year, I think the high was 15 degrees when we ran.
Oh my Lord.
So I will post the link in chat if anybody wants to donate. Any amount you can donate is great. It's for children with neurofibromatosis, basically a disease that gives them tumors all over their body.
Oh my God. That's for a really good
so
cause.
it's just research into that and trying to prevent that. So that's if anybody wants to donate, again, would love it. But I'll post the link in chat.
I'll put it on the show notes too.
Yeah.
Hit me up with it.
But yeah, so if nothing else, just have a drink for me on February 15th because I know I will need it just to make it through a mile run with not much on.
And shortly after, watch for an application to replace Jack after he dies. But yeah, Maul, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna get naked and run down Kansas City?
Yeah, but not for charity, just for the hell.
Yes.
I don't like having extremities. They all need to go away before I lose them. No, that's not my life. That's not for me. But Jack, I wish you luck.
Thanks.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my God. Is that you like to say to send us off? All right, that was pretty good.
That's good enough.
Just
Y'all
that
do well out
I
there.
will
Stay
not be
safe.
running in my underwear. The classic sign off. Logan, can you beat? I will not be running in my underwear.
No, you can cover running around that way, Jack. I think I'm good. But
He invited me, but I would actually die. Like I would not be here.
I guess what I've got to say is you guys have brought a lot of games that I know I'm going to have to go back and try at some point, so I'm just going to keep this list and start going down games I have time.
It'd be fun to, as the seasons progress of the show, revisit some of these too.
that'd be
as
good.
you and Darria have played more of them and kind of get your feedback on them.
Do like a game club or something.
Yeah,
that'd
we
be
should
great.
do a game. Oh my God, Jack. Jack has just come up. Okay, BreakmanX.com game club is going to start. What game are we playing first, everybody?
Chrono Trigger.
Chrono Trigger? Are we doing Chrono Trigger?
I've never played it either.
All right,
I like Chrono Trigger. I've never finished it.
Oh.
I know.
Almost fell over. Well, you got to get one of the 32 endings, and get
Yeah,
Magus.
something like that.
Oh wow.
I would recommend getting Magus. Okay, BreakmanX Game Club. What we should do, like 30 days per game?
I think something like that. I mean, it take.
Depends on the game. The
Chrono
30
Trigger's
days
gonna
for a
take a while.
JRPG.
Yeah.
Probably don't need 30 days for like DuckTales or something like that. Which, it's a great game. I mean, I don't think I'm saying it's a bad game, but you finished that in an afternoon probably. So
Yeah.
Month of DuckTales. All right, we'll start with 30 days. We'll see how it goes. We're starting that in the Discord. I'll post something on the site. And then, we'll figure out a way for you to post your scores. I don't know how you do it with Chrono Trigger, but some way to interact. But
it's a story milestone. I did this. I made it here.
And
Can ask for hints.
there you go. There you go. Darria, send us off.
Well, definitely learn about all the things that I need to catch up on. But no, as I was going through this, I was like, a lot of the memories just kind of like surrounding the different games that I played, and that was kind of what influenced a lot of my decisions on like what was my like quote unquote favorite game for each of these consoles. And so I think like I'm excited to continue to go through these and kind of revisit a lot of those as we go around it, because I think there's a lot of like nostalgia and like just memories surrounding a lot of the moments spent with these games.
Yeah, and I think you'll like them. And you've always, all the games I forced you to play, you've responded pretty well to. The older ones. So awesome. Well, this has been great, and you'll see part 2 of the undisputed list of the best games ever, according to us, the We're Wrong Awards. But with that, we'll see you same time next week on the Game Show.